all this.
The high-level committee formed by the president to address the security situation in Jonglei and Pibor administrative area met on Thursday to start implementing the president's order to restore peace in the troubled region. As Henry Jada reports, the committee chaired by Vice President Dr. James Wani-Iga urged armed groups from both communities to stop fighting.
13 members of the high-level committee plus 13 co-opted members met on Thursday to brainstorm on how to address the security situation in Jonglei State and Pibor administrative area. The committee was formed by the president and headed by Dr. James Wani-Iga, Vice President for Economic Cluster. The root causes are there, and the high-level committee is tasked by the president to investigate the matter. Dr. James Wani-Iga chaired the meeting of the high-level committee and his deputy, General Daniel Awed. According to the order of the president, the committee shall work closely with the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Relief and Rehabilitation Commission, and humanitarian organizations operating in the country to ensure that food aid is immediately provided to the affected communities. Daniel Abusha Ali, the spokesperson of the high-level committee, said the meeting called on the youth from both communities to immediately stop the conflict and return to their respective places.
The high-level committee calls upon the warring communities in Jonglei State and Pibor administrative area to cease hostilities with immediate effect and allow the committee to carry out its investigation and findings. Number two, the high-level committee to address the conflict in Jonglei and Pibor administrative area also call upon the communities in these respective places to peacefully put down their arms and come out with their representatives to tell the committee exactly what are the root causes of their problems. And the third resolution is that the warring communities should permit the evacuation of the wounded for treatment. So the Vice President strongly urged the warring communities to move away from where they are now to their respective homes so that the committee can come and talk to them where they are.
The high-level committee will hold a consultative meeting with elders and leaders of Greater Jonglei and Greater Pibor on Monday at the Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs. The committee will render the final report to the President within 21 days.
And the communities that are to come on Monday with their 5 representatives are 1, Bor South. Communities from Bor South should sit down and nominate 5 representatives that will come for a meeting on Monday. Duk Padiet, Duk Payuel, Twitch East, Nirol, Akobo area, Pibor area, Pangak area, Ayot area, Pachala, Jia, PG, and Uror. The mentioned communities should sit down within these 2 days and come with their representatives on Monday.
The high-level committee formed by the President of the Republic, the icon of the peace in South Sudan, is committed to bring peace and stability to the people of Greater Jonglei and Greater Pibor. For SSBC News, I am Henry Jadajo reporting in the Office of the Vice President.
Government says it is committed to address the challenges associated with COVID-19, desert locusts and flooding in the country. This came in an extraordinary meeting chaired by Vice President in charge of Gender and Youth Cluster Rebecca Nyandeng in Juba on Thursday. Abraham McCann was there and files this report.
Plans are underway to mitigate the challenges hindering the development in the country. Issues of COVID-19, desert locusts, and floods were discussed in a meeting chaired by the Vice President Rebecca Nyandeng Demabior. Earlier, the desert locusts came to South Sudan through Kenya, and this threatened farmers. The Vice President said our cluster remains committed to support the flood-affected areas, while calling on humanitarian organizations to intervene to address the plight of the affected population.
So we say that instead of us sitting, we need to prepare ourselves and our mind and prepare our partners to give them food for thought and equipment and tools in order for them to be able to help us.
The presence of desert locusts remains a major threat to farmers as they continue to invade the country.
The second generation of locusts is coming, starting from Magui, and the first generation even reached Juba. They pass at the north of Juba, but in Magui it has left the footprints, and we know when they land, they leave the eggs. And this is the second generation, and the second generation is more dangerous than the first one. If you are lucky, they pass you while they're up, then you are lucky they will not leave eggs. But when they land, they leave eggs, and this is what we are facing now, and we wanted to prepare for that.
Rebecca Nyandeng said the government is committed to fight COVID-19 pandemic.
And we came to put our mind so that we can see how to avert the disasters. We identified 3 areas of disasters which are facing South Sudan now. One is COVID-19, in which we are working on it, and we have a center here. We are producing face masks and a lot of other awareness that we are doing. For the less advantaged people,
Abraham Maken, SSBC News.
The Sudan Peace Mediation Committee, led by Tut Gadluak, who is also the presidential advisor on national security, is in Khartoum to brief the Sudanese government on the process of the peace process in Juba. Upon arrival at Khartoum International Airport, the delegation was received by a member of the Sudan Sovereign Council, Mohamed Hassan Al-Taishi, who is also the spokesperson in the peace talks. A member of the Peace Mediation Committee, Dr. Dien Mathok Ding, spoke to the media.
الزيارات المكوكية هي أحد الآليات معتمدة بالنسبة للمفاوضات السلام بالذات. كنا عددنا يوم 20/6 كيوم لتوقيع الحرف الأولى، ولكن لبعض الصعوبات نحن ذكرناه كثير للإعلام لم يعدوا ذلك، ووضعنا خطة جديد لإنجاح هذه العملية، وبالتالي فكرنا إنه نحن نجي الخرطوم نجتمعوا بالمفاوضين السودانيين، وبعد ذلك نحن نجتمع بالقيادة السياسية في البلد، نجتمع بالرئيس المجلس السيادي، ونجتمع بالرئيس مجلس الوزراء، ونجتمع مع الأجهزة المعنية في ملف السلام. نتمنى هذا الزيارة يذلل بعض العقبات التي تواجه الزيارة.
The Investigation Committee on Gumbo Shirkat incident, led by the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, Ruben Madol Arol, assessed damages on the property of the late Luala Kogwol Kir at Shirkat. The communities of Bari, Dinkabor, and of Greater Barkazal briefed the committee on the genesis of the fight. A member of the committee, General Majanga Kate Malok, who is also the Inspector General of Police, called on the local authorities in Juba to cooperate with the national government in resolving land disputes. On his part, the Secretary General of the defunct Juba State, Francis Luala, called on the national government to assist them in settling land-grabbing issues.
في تقارير بتاع ناس بوليس، ناس الامن، وناس بتاع الانتليجنس، وناس بتاع الاداره، وسمينا كلام بتاع الشهود، وسمينا كلام بتاع الاطراف، وسمينا كلام بتاع الناس القبضوا عليهم. وفي الزياره الاول جينا شفنا الحاجه الحصل، شفنا معلات مكسوره هنا ده، حتى العربات والكمبيوترز، وبرضه في الوزاره هناك بتاع التليكومنيكيشنز ناسنا مشوا شافوا التعويق اللي عملوه، وبرضه مشينا لحد مع الحادث مع المقابر، وسمينا تنوير من المسؤولين والناس اللي شافوا الشيء اللي حصل، وشفنا حتى الدمج الثاني اللي عملوه في الشارع العام، في عربات كان حرقوهم وكده، بيوري على انه الدوله مهتم بحاجه الحصل، وداير يلقى حله، وداير يقلعوه من الجذور بتاعه. بين 30 القبل شويه نشوفهم بيتكلموا، فما كان
ساعة في الحكومة بتاعت الولاية عشان ما تلوكي piece of land يعني بتاعينه 4 كيلو يعني في كل اتجاه بتاعت منغلا كان المفروض يبقى 4 كيلو يعني متر فورجاف يبقى كمان 4 كيلو في كل لوكيشن اللي ممكن تشوف في 2 كاونتيز دي بعدها يشيلوا الناس من المحل ويمشي كتد المحل بتاع 8 كيلو ده كيلومتر وبعدها بيقولوا للجماعه
Rajaf has got a lot of problems. And most of these problems that are happening in Rajaf here are problems that are related to the land. Problem of land grab, which is a serious case. This had been there for long.
يعني أنا من ديبلوي في رجاف ولا قبل ما نجي هنا إيشو بتاع اللاند جرابينج هو أكبر مشكلة اللي بواجهنا كإدارة بتاع رجاف كاونتي. ومشكلة ده مش هو لاند جرابينج اللي ممكن يزول بجراب لاند عشان ده يقعد فوقه، لكن ده بيقرا ناس شغالين بقى مكاتب بزنس بتاع الأراضي. حتى ممكن ندي هنا في بعض من حاجات اللي قبلناها منهم توكنز.
IGAD Executive Secretary has apologized to the revitalized government of national unity on a recent tweet against the agreement reached between President Kiir and Dr. Machar on allocation of states. The IGAD acting head of mission, Dr. Philip Mwanika, who briefed the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation on the matter, said the Twitter account of the Executive Secretary was hacked.
He came to say the apology of the Executive Secretary that was not him, but somebody else went and tweet that information wrongly, which is not him. So he came also to apologize of that thing.
We also had some discussions on support in the security sector reforms element of the peace process. IGAD also has a system, we call it the IGAD Security Sector Program, where we can engage on both doctrinal and other elements of training related to human rights, policing standards, name it, for the future force in South Sudan.
The Minister of Presidential Affairs, Nial Deng Nial, met with a troika delegation headed by the U.S. Ambassador Thomas Hoshek in Juba on Thursday. In a statement after the meeting, the U.S. Ambassador said they discussed the security situation in the country and formation of the state government. Ambassador Hoshek urged the government of South Sudan to enlighten the public on the risks of coronavirus.
We covered a wide range of issues and designed to talk about all the issues, all the processes involved in the peace process, including just about every chapter of the peace agreement. So we talked about some of the security situation in the country, breaking the impasse on the appointment of governors in the 10 states, and the constitution of the state-level governments, and then a little bit about all the other chapters, recovery of the economy, public financial oversight, transitional justice, constitution making, and the elections. So we've covered a wide range of activities. We really, as the troika countries, we really are looking forward to a renewed partnership with government of South Sudan on all these issues, and moving forward with the government and with the people of South Sudan. We did spend a considerable amount of time talking about the importance of civil society to the process, how the peace process will be much stronger with a stronger civil society, and so the need for making sure that political space was open for them as well. And recognizing that the significant challenges that poses to all of our countries, and the genuine efforts that are being made to try to deal with the problem here. So we'll keep encouraging leadership in the government to deliver messages about hygiene, distancing, hand washing, mask wearing, and we'll also continue to work with from the grassroots up to make sure that spreads as well as a new practice here in South Sudan.
Let's go for a short break and we shall be right back.
Coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic is respiratory illness or an infectious disease caused by a newly discovered coronavirus.
Vice President Dr. James Wani Iga calls on the armed group in Jonglei and Pibor to stop fighting. More than 5,000 households displaced by floods in Kapuita North County. And senior military officers visit Rajaf Training Center. Welcome back from that short break. To proceed with our news bulletin, the Finance Management Oversight Committee, chaired by the Minister of Finance and Planning, Salvatore Karangmabudit, discussed public finance management reforms to boost the economy. The minister said the committee promote accountability and transparency in the public institutions. The Ministers of Public Service, Labor and Petroleum sits on the Oversight Committee, and the U.S. Ambassador Thomas Hashek represents the international community in the committee tasked with drawing strategic plans for addressing the challenges facing the economy.
Discussion among them to approve the terms of reference and also to let the structures make their own structure so that we can embark on the public financial management reforms, which are very crucial for the revitalized agreement in our economy. And also, we have to include other institutions which are relevant to this committee, the Oversight Committee, for the reform agenda, like the Ministry of Gender, the other, and the Federal Affairs Minister, so that they can also give an input to improve the reform agenda for our economy. And of course, all those things are needed by the World Bank and the IMF, and also this has been also reflected in the revitalized agreement, chapter 4, to make sure that the economy is reformed in order to reflect our prudent use of.
The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management, Peter Mayan Majongdit, said humanitarian workers would protect the community against the coronavirus. The minister spoke during a training on the risks of COVID-19. The representative of the International Organization for Migration, Nafid Nijum, said his organization would support the ministry to promote its activities. The ministry's Undersecretary, Gadwich Peter Kulang, urged the public to observe social distancing and wear face masks to curb the spread of the virus.
لأن القضية الكل هنا كيف أي زول بيمكن يحفظ نفسه من فيروس الكورونا، وبالتالي هنا لازم تساعد نفسك وتحفظ نفسك وتحمي نفسك قبل ما تحمل الآخرين، لأنه نحن بنعرف لو زول وقع في البحر وانت ما بتقدر تعوم إلا تمشي تجري تنادي منه الزول اللي بيقدر بيعوم. فبالتالي من بعد اليوم أو بعد نهاية هذا الورش العمل نحن بنعرف كل الموظفين بتاعنا في وزارة الشؤون الإنسانية هم جاهزين عشان يقوموا البلد برا من فيروس الكورونا.
In a simple term, the stay-at-home directives is a global strategy to control the stress of COVID-19. The government, through National Task Force on COVID-19, whose major membership is drawn from the key government institutions, are putting measures not only to ensure people are food secure, but also safely going about their normal duties in such offices, their daily livelihood, while observing measures provided by the National Ministry of Health, including social distancing, wearing of face masks, and frequent hand washing.
On behalf of IOM, I assure you that we are there to work with you. We work jointly and we believe on that. That is the government whose activities are sustainable. IOM is there to support you always. Another thing that I would like to mention is that I'm really happy that we have started with a team like the unclassified staff, which are really important staff. They have linkages, they have network, they have connection in the community. They can transfer the knowledge that they would earn from this training to their communities. They can help us to reduce the COVID positive cases. They can help us to achieve our major goals.
The Minister of Public Service and Human Resource Development, Joseph Bangasi Bakasoro, and the British Ambassador Chris Trott discussed the implementation of the revitalized peace agreement. The British Ambassador said his government is committed to supporting the implementation of the revitalized peace agreement.
We discussed a lot of issues pertaining to the running of the ministry and the support of UK government to South Sudan, and also the formation of a state government, which is now undergoing. Probably within this week or next, we shall have the state governors appointed because the international committee is concerned that formation of the government has to be completed so that the support goes down to the grassroots. And we hope that this will happen as soon as possible. And I explained to him the challenges South Sudan is facing, and especially the Ministry of Public Service.
We've had a really interesting discussion, both about how the ministry is functioning, the role of the ministry in supporting the civil service in South Sudan, and its role in helping deliver the decisions that are taken by the government, but also the decisions that are outlined in the peace process. We've talked about the implementation of the peace process itself. We've talked about the importance that the international community attaches to seeing the peace process advance.
The Minister of Transport, Madud Biariel, and the outgoing Japanese Ambassador Seiji Okada discussed completion of development projects, including construction of new bridges and ports on the Nile River.
The hope and interest that we expected for a long time, because there's nothing like shipbuilding in the Republic of South Sudan from time immemorial. This is the first time that the Japanese government is transferring technology of shipbuilding from Japan up to here, so that the South Sudanese can have their own shipbuilding along the River Nile. He also reiterated the need for building more bridges also the longest Nile in Africa here, as a single country in Africa, and we need so many bridges like other countries who have for easy communication from the north from the east and west.
One subject I came here to follow up our project working with the Ministry of Transport. You know, Japan is now engaging to build a barge ship in South Sudan. The idea is to to provide or transfer technology how to build the barge ship in South Sudan. We are focusing on the kind of bringing the barge ship, but the idea is not simply bringing the ship here, but the original purpose is to teach the people in South Sudan how to build the ship here in South Sudan. So we developed a special technology barge ship in Japan. It's called the simple ship. Simple means it's simple to assemble.
The line ministries discussed ending gender-based violence in the country. They said would talk with community leaders to address the issue. Our reporter Abate Simon has more on this story.
The Minister of Youth and Sports promised to support the efforts calling for an action to end gender-based violence and impunity for GBV perpetrators in the country. Minister Dr. Albino Boldew argued that more resources should be geared to both targeted cultural norms and general public awareness.
A lot of awareness. The first line to correct this thing is awareness to our communities, so we can change some norms. There are cultures that need to be changed. There are cultures, if your girl or your daughter reaches the age of 20 and she's not married is considered as a curse to the family and something very bad that you don't want to see. So your daughter must get married. Even if she wants to complete her school, let her go and complete it in her house. But in her house, she will not get a chance for the studies. She will be bearing kids, and our men especially are considering women as apparatus for producing kids. They don't have that value that there is no difference between man and woman except with their mental capacities.
The Minister of Gender, Child and Social Welfare, Aya Warile, asked the South Sudanese to have zero tolerance for gender-based violence and harmful practices. She urged parents to take the responsibility of their children to avoid the abuses happening to the children at streets.
We can do better as a society or community. It is our duty also to protect our citizens, and in particular, the most vulnerable, by creating a safe environment for them to report the crimes committed against them, as many of these perpetrators are known to the communities. The government is committed to working with our partners to strengthen the legal frameworks and institutions, improving services for survivors, addressing the root causes of violence, and promoting women's empowerment.
Daniel Justin, the Director of Moral Orientation and Public Relations in the Ministry of Interior, challenged the public to be consistent on following the case of gender-based violence till the court completes. He cautioned the public against resolving the cases outside the court. He said this will not safeguard the health, security, and justice to every female.
Yeah. They came to us that they have established a center and they are working with regard to this gender-based violence. After that, sometimes if there is a case reported to them, they take the victim, do the necessary assistance to the victim, but at the end of the day, no case opening. So we have been asking them, now we work together. We need, whenever there is something, you just report it to us, we open a case, then you take the victim. It is our responsibility to look for the criminal. So it's still a challenge now. Even sometimes back we have the headquarters of Special Protection Unit in Udele Block 9. It's already big. We went together with the Undersecretary to visit it, and it will be launched on Monday. It is a chance also to inform all the media. You are welcome to see the office, the new office for South Sudan headquarters for the Special Protection Unit. It is concerned in regard to these gender-based violence matters. And also
The Ministry of Gender, Child and Social Welfare Leadership urges all men and women to break the silence and bring the perpetrators to justice in conformity with Constitutional Framework, Article 16, Section 1, that women should be accorded full and equal dignity of person with the men. SSBC, Abate Simon.
More than 5,000 households have been displaced by floods in Capoeira North County. A committee led by the Director General of the Civil Defense Service, Colonel Henry Malish Lewis, visited the area to assess the damages. James Arusi reports.
More than 5,000 households have been displaced by floods in Capoeira North County. A government-selected committee led by the Director General of Civil Defense Service, Colonel Henry Malish Lewis, has visited Iroto to assess the damage. The South Sudan Weather Department says more rain is expected to pound the region for the next 3 months. Speaking to SSBC during their visit to the flood-affected area, the Director General of Civil Defense Service, Malish Lewis, called on the government to construct a bridge on Singata River to help protect lives.
affect the community والناس علينا اللي affect بالجسد ممكن ما 5,000 نفر بعض الناس في المنطقة بجاء هي كمان ما 5,000 نفر ده يا كوميتي مشان مومن ده يا بيتا جنرال ده يا تشيف بتاع أمني مشان إذا رجنا مطابق بتاع إدارة عشان نمشي نعملوا public awareness للجماعة بتاع national disaster. أنا بس بيطلب من humanitarian والناس بتاع NGOs عشان يساعدوا على المواطنين بتاعنا التعبانين على affect مع disaster. ناس بتاعنا Ministry of Fiscal Infrastructure في national government عشان نشوف كيف يعملوا كبريني يساعدوا community الكونتس اللي ماشي طبعا شركة ماشي منين قاعدة في إثيوبيا. إذا كان في ناس ما بيشيلوا منين وفي ناس ما بدمارات بيمشي كده بيشيلوا بيعيشوا مدينتهم.
Meanwhile, the Director General at the Ministry of Information in Kapoita, Paul Ohisa, appealed to the humanitarian agencies to provide assistance to the flood-affected people. Last year alone, 13 people died while attempting to cross this same river.
This is the main point where the water flows and affect the communities where we have come from. So, as the Director of Civil Defense says, we really make appeal to all the NGOs and those humanitarian agencies if they can come in and help these communities, because this is a terrible moment that need these people to be helped. We have gone to the ground and we have listened from them, and now we are coming to the main point where this water flows and affects their communities.
In a separate development, the authorities in the defunct Kapoita state have handed over cattle that were confiscated from traders by the youth from the Buya community. Last month, the youth from the Buya community confiscated nearly 100 cattle from the traders who were on their way to Kapoita town. The Secretary General of Kapoita, David Eringa, is in Kimotong area of Budi County, where he witnessed the handover ceremony. Eringa appeals to the communities in the region to coexist peacefully with one another.
To recover the total number was 60. The total number was 81. The committee that you see behind here are the people who work tirelessly and tremendously to recover these cows here. So our thanks goes back to them, the entire committee, the members, the chief, the youths, and the women that you are seeing them here. They are the ones that are recovering these cows. The cows that are recovered in a total is 64. So the balance that are remaining is something to do with 18. So we will still work on so that we recover the rest that is remaining. So today we are handing over to the owners, the rightful owners, and these cows are not only for the Toposa businessmen. We have Dinga businessmen, we have Boya businessmen, we have Latuko business people, and all the tribes that are living here.
A community leader, Angelo Lomoy, said they will work hard to recover the remaining cattle and would be given back to their rightful owners.
We have our executive director, the intellectuals of Kimotong. They work day and night to make the cattle recovered. The cattle were 81, which were raided, and currently through the efforts plus the chief and other notables, they were able to recover 64 heads of cattle. The balance of 17, I hope with the effort that they have exited earlier, I have no doubt that they will collect this in as soon as possible. And to the traders whose cattle were taken, you receive the ones which are already at hand, and the people of Kimotong, the intellectuals combined with all the youth, will work very hard to collect the balance.
James Arusi, SSBC.
Senior military officers visited Rajaf Training Center to familiarize themselves with the final touches of the graduation of the soldiers. Members of other organized forces are currently training in Rajaf as they await their graduation day. The Inspector General Police said upon graduation, the soldiers would be deployed to various parts of the country. Loco Pitia has the story.
There is high morale among the forces at the Rajab Training Center as they anticipate their passing out at any time from now. The training of the necessary unified forces is a key to the implementation of the security arrangement. Addressing the forces, the co-chair of the Joint Defense Board, Lieutenant General Gabriel Doblam, urged the forces to prepare themselves for the great task of protecting the civilians and their properties. General Lam appealed to the forces to forget their past differences and open a new chapter as they take the national task.
The armed forces is compared to eggs. وده يوم مهم بتاعكم ولما تيجي لكم كبوليس شغل الكبير شغل المدني شغل بتاعكم ده شغل المدني. You protect, you detect. لو في ذول مجرم ده يشيل قانون في يده ده بوليس ياو بيشوف أول. الجاب مينا ده سلام.
قوات بتاعكم ده ما قوات بتاع عذاب. ده قوات لسلام. لما بكرهكم بعدين هيكون بوليس واحد بوليس مواعدة بقولوا ناشونال بوليس لساوث السودان ما في ايو ما في سوا ما في حكومة إنتوا هيكون دافع للبلد للدستور بتاع جنوب السودان.
The chairperson of the Joint Monitoring Ceasefire Commission, Lieutenant General Wesley Welber Samson, commended the forces for enduring the conditions at the training center despite the challenges brought about by the coronavirus. Welber called on the forces undergoing training at Rajab to stay away from ethnicity, but rather to work together as members of one unified professional army.
مشكلة بتاع كورونا ونينا بنشيني كدما وصلوا في الميدان بتاعنا في رجاف هنا كله أجري بطالي يا جماعة.
While the Inspector General of the National Police Service, General Majak Akech Malov, underscored the importance of cooperation among the forces as they are going to be deployed into different units within the police service. Majak called on those outside the training center to report to the center immediately.
بشكر المعلمين العمل شغل أنني شفناه اليوم وبباركم للتعاون بتاعكم انتوا عملتوا مع معلمين بتاعكم بتاع رجاب بيقول بينه تتواصل مع نفس التعاون ده بنفس الروح بنفس المورال حتى مع التيم تدريب بتاعكم وامشي وزعوكم في اعمال مختلفه بتاع البوليس وفي مواقعات مختلفه في اماكن مختلفه لحمايه بتاع المواطنين مع ممتلكات بتاعهم في الدوله كله فتكونوا متعاونين مورال بتاعكم كله يكون فوق وكلم باقافاتكم واخواتكم اللي بيكونوا لسه ما جاوا في داخل الميدان الفادوا باقراض مختلفه يرجعوا للميدان عشان ما تكونوا في تعب تدريج اللي بيكون جاي فوق القادم.
The Joint Defense Board is expected to visit all the training centers across the country. The top military leader says their visit to the center was to get first-hand information about the condition and the preparedness of the unified forces ahead of their graduation. Lakopitia, SSBC, Rajab Unified Training Center.
10 more people have tested positive for coronavirus as South Sudan's confirmed cases now rose to 1,952. The focal person on COVID-19 in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Richard Laku, said the new cases were among the 52 samples tested in the last 24 hours. Dr. Laku said 241 people have recovered and 36 have died from COVID-19 in the country. Dr. Laku called on South Sudanese to strictly observe the preventive measures put in place to control the virus.
Today, the Public Health Laboratory released 50 test results, of which 10 of them confirmed positive for COVID-19. These 10, one of them female, 9 male. This brings the total cumulative cases in South Sudan to 1,952 cases, of which 1,498 are male and 454 were female. And with 36 deaths so far, these 36 deaths, 5 are female, and then the remaining 31 are male, and the case fatality is 1.8%. The total number of people recovered as today, 241, and the remaining 1,675 confirmed cases are to be followed. We had total number of tests performed in country so far 10,276, of which 1,952 were positive, and this gives us the positivity rate of 19%. 2% of these confirmed cases are imported. 98% of these are local transmission, and this means that we have transmission in 17 counties out of 80 counties of South Sudan in 10 states of South Sudan. In IDU today, we have 4 cases admitted. 2 of them are male, 2 of them are female, and all of them are mild cases. They are stabilized, and their cases are not, we don't have any critical or severe cases. So in terms of contacts, we have total number of contacts, 4,454. Of these who have finished 14 days follow-up are 3,645, and now we are yet to follow 809 contacts, and these, we can say that 33% of these contacts were actually converted to cases.
And that finally brings us to the end of this news hour. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Out Polnang. Till next time.